How you doing?
How you doing, boss?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. It's been too long. It's
It's
been
been a
too long. How
while,
you
my
doing?
brother.
It's nice speaking with you today. And I mean, it's I think it's more because you've been busy, right? Isn't it? You've been all over the place, and Yellow Card is no longer a small company. You have like there are chances that you don't have like you don't know something is going on in the company on day to day basis. I mean, just because of how big your operation is getting, isn't it?
We are definitely at that point. It's I will say so. Like I knew everybody's name up until probably about 100 employees, and that for me was like the weirdest adjustment, right? Like somebody on I don't know, like like somebody on the exec team would mention somebody to me, and I don't know who they are. That for me was like the weirdest adjustment, and so I'm I'm getting better at that. I've like now I know basically what everybody does and who everybody is, but yeah, I mean at one point we were adding people so fast that it's like, oh shit, I don't know who you are, I don't know what you do.
I can totally relate. I can imagine. No, I can't relate. I don't have a big team, but I can imagine how interesting that is. I mean, because Mariblock is growing fast, and we're having new team members, and
Yes, is that
it's
the new
just really
name?
interesting to see how. Mariblock, yeah, yeah. We rebranded to Mariblock last year, right? And I mean that was because we felt the name Crypto Africa was in a way limiting, given the fact that we are looking to communicate with people that are not even in the crypto space,
Mhm.
right? So and I mean we went through kind of a rebranding process, and Mariblock won.
Incredible. I like it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you. But how are you doing though? How are you doing? It seems you're on
Well, I'm
on the
still
move,
alive, my brother.
kind of every day these days.
I am around, man. A little stability would be nice now and again, but the last two times I asked for stability in my life, I asked for stability in February of 2020, and COVID's not exactly what I had in mind, and I had the same wish back in like December. I was like, wow, I sure wish I could like travel a little less. And then I got malaria and ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You,
So
you
I'm gonna
mentioned that
stop. I'm gonna
it's
stop
good to
asking for
see. It's
stability.
really good. Oh well, I guess I mean it's I think it's just like a season, right? Or maybe you've been kind of overly worked, right? And just the little stability you kind of get, your body kind of then has the time to process it. I'm not a medical person, man, but I know that. So sometimes when I am not feeling too well, or I kind of feel that symptom, the last thing I want to do is like stop, because I feel like when I stop, I'm likely to break down, right?
Oh, my
But,
brother, I'll
but yeah,
stop when I'm
just
dead.
to well, it's good to see you, and just to let's get straight to this, so that because of your time, right? Yeah. So I think interestingly, I wanted to start from like your partnership with Block, right? Congratulations on that. But just before we go in there, I think something big happened in the crypto space this week, and that is the European Union, right? The whole MiCA kind of regulatory framework, right? And I think that is really interesting. Yeah, and I think it's like something for the whole for the rest of the world to like really take note of, right? At Mariblock, we rarely cover what things happening outside of Africa, except things that we think can be significant for the continent. And I just wanted to like take you, get you. Have you had time to like have you seen the news?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I have not read deep into the bill and deep into the regulations and everything, but the the general feedback that I've seen is that it's sort of a step in the right direction, right? Which is good because the U.S. is going completely the wrong way right now. So, I think, obviously, same as you, right? It's like whenever I see something, it's like I don't really care unless it has an impact on the continent, right? And so, for me, I think that good regulation anywhere helps bolster regulation everywhere, right? And so, I think that anything that's good for crypto in the U.S., in which right now there's not a lot in the U.S., but anything that's good for crypto in Europe, in Asia, and other parts of the world helps a lot when it comes to Africa and the way that African regulators think about this stuff, right? A lot of these African regulators they're not reinventing the wheel, right? They're looking at what other countries are doing and looking at what other parts of the world have done to regulate crypto, and then trying to emulate that, right, in a way that doesn't kill the industry and sort of promotes innovation and keeps people safe and that kind of thing, right? So, look, I'm going to be reading more about it, especially ahead of like some regulatory meetings and everything that I have. But overall, anything that I can point to when meeting with, a regulator and say like, hey, look, they're doing it this way in Europe, they're doing it this way in, Asia or the US or whatever, anything that's good that can be pointed to is generally pretty helpful, right? It makes it a lot easier than just explaining, hey, crypto is good, believe me, right? If you could point to what other regulators are doing around the world.
Yeah, that makes total sense, right? And please keep us in the loop, right? With conversations around regulation. I think we would like to most certainly, cover more, have more conversation and kind of lead more conversation into regulation. And why this is interesting for me, right? Because just before I got on this call, I was just editing our weekly newsletter. We call it Mariblock Weekly, right? Where we kind of summarize like the biggest stories of it. Right. I'll send you the link after this, fantastic. Right? We send it. Or I'll just add you. I'll just add you to the email base since you've just given you a go ahead, right? Yeah. So I was just and I was writing about just alongside with our reporter at Mariblock, about just how significant this is for Africa, because just far too many times I've heard like regulators say things like, "Oh, our position is similar to the rest of to the developed countries. Like we don't see any serious big or major economies, taking this thing seriously." And I feel like with this development, right, that line is becoming redundant.
Yeah. There are definitely parts of the world that are taking it seriously, right? And I think, in Europe, we've seen more of that again than, the U.S., but it is definitely being taken seriously in other parts of the world, right? But I think, one thing that I would say, and this takes like a fundamental shift in thinking. So this is a much harder pitch than just pointing to what Europe is doing. But African regulators have, for the entire existence of most of these countries, have had sort of this opinion that they need to wait on other countries to do something, right? And they need to look at other countries in the way that they're doing it. And part of that obviously comes from just like the continent lagging behind the rest of the world and things like the internet and stuff like that, right? But when you think about crypto, Africa is not just involved in crypto, right? Africa is really leading the way for adoption for most of the world, right? You have more users in Africa for crypto than any other continent but Asia. And so I think that overall, I think that regulators need to get out of the mindset that they need to wait on like the US or Europe to do something before they know what to do, right? African countries are in a position to set regulation on this and drive that adoption. And I think that we need more sort of forward thinking and bigger thinking African regulators that are willing to take that step and actually work with, private sector and that kind of thing on what does this regulation look like, and then actually implement something, right? Regardless of what the US and Europe are doing, right? And I think, to some extent, I would say that Botswana did that, right? In some of the work that we did with Botswana and the virtual asset license and everything that Botswana issued, they did that to some extent, right? Obviously, they looked at what other people are doing, but then they kind of made their own determinations and decisions, right? And some of them are good, some of them not as good, but it's a work in progress, right? And so, I think that's really what I would like to see from African regulators, right? Is like, it really shouldn't matter if Europe is putting something out, because Europe is not leading the world in this technology, right? Africa is.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, right? Because just this week, we reported on how Zambia, a minister, I think the Minister for Technology in Zambia, if you can see my screen right now, told Reuters that they're completing a crypto regulatory technology by mid-year, right? And I thought that was really interesting. You operate in Zambia, yeah?
Yeah, we operate in Zambia, and we have a lot of regulatory engagement there. We're actually in the Zambian sandbox, the fintech central bank sandbox for BOZ, and we're the only crypto company that they allowed in. And so, yeah, look, this is Zambia. I've said this before, but Zambia obviously has a lot of catching up to do in terms of like tech and everything, right? Zambia, like the Lusaka tech economy is not Lagos. It's not, Joburg or Cape Town. It's not Nairobi, but Zambia wants to be the Silicon Valley of Africa, right? And I think that Zambia is one of the more tech forward and sort of tech friendly, open, engaging regulatory regimes that we've seen, right? With the BOZ and everybody else involved there. And so I'm not surprised to see this, especially, like I said, given that, we're sandboxing there and working with them on stuff like this. And yeah, Zambia, frankly, Zambia, I think, is a great place to start a tech company right now. It's not as big as the Nigerian market, obviously. But if you want to start somewhere that's friendly, right? Zambia is a great place to start.
That's interesting. I think what you're describing sounds pretty much like how Rwanda has been kind of a haven for startups in African startups in recent year. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Rwanda's interesting. I always hear that Rwanda is sort of this haven for startups. I can tell you, when we were registering the company in Rwanda, we had so much difficulty in Rwanda, so much more difficulty in Rwanda than almost anywhere else. And it's not been the easiest country for us by any means to do business in, right? And so I think that they're doing a lot to like promote themselves and to kind of drive people there. And I hope that like, as part of that, the government there will work more with the private sector and work more with like different emerging tech companies on just how to be friendlier and more open towards that tech, right? I think Rwanda has done a great job on the PR, but I'm not sure that they've done as good of a job in practice as some other places have.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense, Richard. I'll hope you invite me to join you in this Apple at some point in time. But yeah, so let's talk about Yellow Card a little bit, right? Congratulations on your partnership with Block, right? I covered your Series A funding in 2000. I think that was 2021, yes. Right? And I remember that Block is is part of your. I mean, that was Square Venture or something like that. But I know Jack Dorsey was very much invested into the company. So it's really interesting to like learn about this. And I just want to like see if you can like talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So look, we've been working with the broader Block team for a while, right? I mean, obviously we received the investment from, at the time, Square and the Cash App ecosystem fund. Now it's Block. Now they got a lot more going on, right? And yeah, I mean, those guys are making strides, man. So we worked with TBD, which is the division of Block that specifically that we partnered with on this. We're working with TBD to on a couple of things, right? Number one, to enable just easy on and off ramping in Africa through crypto for Block's broader ecosystem, right? So obviously, Block is a number of companies, right? There's a number of entities and companies and business lines and products and everything under the Block umbrella. And so through TBD, we're going to work to power all of that, and sort of as those different business lines start to connect to the continent. And then we're also working with TBD on a lot of the other initiatives that they have around decentralized identity, around their TB Dex, their decentralized exchange. I mean, look, I think look, I mean, obviously I'm biased, but I think Block is doing a great job in terms of not just crypto, but really signaling to the world that there's a lot of activity going on in crypto outside of just the US, right? And I mean, Jack has been doing this for a while, right? Jack is, he did his Africa tour. He's, been in and out of the continent since, and has always spoken very highly of the continent and the opportunity in Africa. And I think what I would say is that obviously, look, we're super excited to work with Block, and I don't think it's any surprise that Block's the first, major company that we're working with on this. But I hope that it's not the last, right? I hope that more companies follow the example that Block is setting and realize that there is a massive opportunity on the continent, right? And that the continent develops when everybody starts to get involved, right? And when companies from all over the world are coming in and doing business here. And so, yeah, I hope that look, I mean, we're pumped to work with Block and work with all the different divisions of Block, and the TBD team has been fantastic. I mean, I hope that more big public companies learn from the example that Block is setting, because they're really trailblazing. They're really trailblazing something here for Africa, right?
All right. Yeah, great. And I think I don't know if you could like speak a little bit to like maybe some specifics like of how this would work, right? Because especially given how crypto has been tipped, and I think that was one of the earliest hype around crypto that it could solve problems around remittances, the high fees and all of that. And one thing that we did in our coverage, is we actually mentioned how Africa remains perennially the most expensive region to transfer value, right? Mm-hmm. And it would just be nice to if you could speak to us. And this is the latest. I think this is as of the third quarter of last year, right? Yep. Which is the latest report the World Bank has released on remittance fees, right? And you see right on the far left here, far right, that it costs average of 8.46% to send money $200 to sub-Saharan Africa, right?
Yeah.
And we've kind of been regurgitating this for a few years, and I don't think we've seen anything that has moved the needle just yet.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you're right, because legacy remittance companies, so think of your Western Unions, your TransferWise, your World Remits, all of these guys, make a lot of money off of this, right? And so there's very little incentive for them to change up a very profitable operating business and try to fix this, right? And try to bring these costs down, right? I mean, if I'm making a ton of money doing this, then why would I just lower costs, right? And so you're right. We have not really seen this cost come down from sort of a legacy traditional remittance standpoint. Where we have seen this cost come down is with stable coins and crypto, right? Because if I'm going to send you $200, I'm not going to send you $200 through World Remit or TransferWise, right? My brother, you know how we operate. I'm gonna say, drop me your USDT wallet. I'm gonna send you something, right? I'm gonna bless you today, and you get your 200 USDT. You sell it for Naira, and you have $200 worth of Naira, right? You didn't lose $18 in the transmission. You didn't lose $18. At any point in that process, right? You get the actual value of your dollar when you sell that for Naira. And it's the same in most other parts of Africa, right? Instead of getting the artificially low bank rate, you're getting the actual value of your money when you send it through stable coins or through crypto, right? USDT, USDC. And so the thing is like, with stable coins popping up and doing this, it really, what I keep telling people is that it's going to take a major company having the guts to say, hey, look, this might hurt our bottom line, right? But it's the right thing to do. And, frankly, look, maybe I'm seeing this through rose-colored glasses, right? But I think that the first company to do this and do this properly, I don't think that it's going to hurt their bottom line, because I think they will get so much more business that they're missing from the informal market, right? I mean, sending money through Hawala, sending money through all these like other means of sending money is not the best way to get money from point A to point B, right? The easiest way to get money from point A to point B is to log on to TransferWise and type in a recipient's bank account, and then it pops up in your bank, right? And so the thing is like, it's easy, but it's not cost effective anymore. And so that's why people use these informal methods. They use Hawala, they use crypto, they use things like that, right? And so look, what I give like major props to Block on, and to the TBD team within Block for really seeing this, is that there's an opportunity here to just disrupt this whole industry, because the traditional players in it don't want to sort of acknowledge that technology is changing and times are changing, right? And so as part of the integration with TBD, and obviously, like I said, this is going to be used throughout the Block org. We were able to do live tests. And we sent money to Nigeria, Kenya, and Ghana. It got there in 60 seconds, and for not just for free, right? I mean, it essentially the recipients essentially got paid to receive that money, right? Because when selling crypto, you oftentimes get more than $1 at the official rate, right? I mean, you know this very well in Nigeria, right? If I sell Bitcoin on the streets, I'm getting a lot more than 460, right? And so I'm getting more than $1 for doing this through crypto, right? And so it's going to take a big player in fintech or in the finance space or in the remittance space that's willing to be the disruptor, and that's willing to say that this entire industry is not going to be the same in 5-10 years, and we want to be a part of that, right? And so I think Block is making the first step towards that. And like I said, I hope that more companies follow in their example, right? Because look, you're talking about it's about 9% to send money to the continent, right? And you're talking about 70 to 80 billion dollars a year that's flowing in to sub-Saharan Africa. So you take 9% of that, that's $6-7 billion. I mean, think about what $6-7 billion could do for the Nigerian economy. Think about what that could do for, Cameroon, for Kenya, for South Africa, right? That's a ton of money that's going to Western Union instead of going to the continent. right? And so, yeah, I mean, look, it's I think look, these companies are not going to be able to make 9% forever. Those margins are going to shrink as technology improves, and yeah, and I mean, frankly, just it's better for everybody, right? It's there will, like I said, there will be more people sending through traditional rails when those prices come down. You'll see the informal market start to shrink, so that 70 to 80 billion dollars will grow. Not because there's necessarily more money being sent, but just because people are going to use the easiest, fastest, best way to send it, right? And so if you can offer people a better solution than the informal market, they're going to use it, right? So
yeah, that makes total sense to me, right? And I think what I hear you say is that the reason why we've not seen the use of crypto remittance scale is distribution, right? The guys that have the distribution are not willing to try it, and so it means that, I mean, distribution is definitely expensive, right? And I'm just curious to know. So because I think just sometime last year, right, you might be aware that BitNob, right, a Bitcoin company in Nigeria, I think they serve Nigeria, Kenya, and Ghana, right? Partnered with Strike. That's the another Bitcoin company in US, and I think later on in December, Bitcoin Corner, right, based in Europe, to facilitate remittances, crypto remittances, or kind of Lightning Network based remittances to Africa, right? I'm not sure there's a lot of movement on that front, right? I've been looking out for the data around just that, and the information that I have is that there's not much movement. And I think obviously for this kind of things to happen, right, you need a big marketing budget, right, to raise awareness to this service. So yeah, so is that something you expect? Just let me to complete that. Or is that something you expect that Yellow Card would have to invest a lot in marketing to raise awareness regarding this remittance product?
Yeah, look, 100%. I mean, the thing is that you can partner with anybody for remittance. The thing is though, is it comes down to who has that network. Right? Because, I mean, look, people are creatures of habit, right? If I'm using TransferWise, and that's the app that I use to send money home every day, it takes a good amount of effort for me to switch, right? I already have my account there. I just hit, repeat transfer. It's done, right? So I don't have to think about it. It's easy. And so the thing is you need to prioritize working with companies that have that distribution already. Right. And the thing is that for the companies that have that distribution, the incentive for them is that, hey, this is new technology running through their rails, right? They get to benefit because they have this existing, they have this existing infrastructure. They get to benefit from this new technology using their existing infrastructure, right? And they get to, essentially catch up in the 21st century, right? And so that's the thing is look, I don't think, I think that when it comes to the remittance space, I think that people talk all the time about how Western Union and MoneyGram are bad and they've been around for so long and they charge so much and all of this. The reality is that half of all remittance in the world is still cash on both ends. Cash in and then cash out for the recipient. Half of all remittance in the world still happens like that. Cash is extremely difficult, right? Cash requires a lot of infrastructure. It requires pickup points and drop off points and everything, right? Because it's physical. It's not, I can't just send you Momo. I can't just, drop something into your bank account, right? And so with that, the thing is Western Union and MoneyGram, we want to partner with everybody. We want to partner with small companies, big companies, everything. But Western Union and MoneyGram, especially, it's we would love to work with these guys, right? I don't want to take down Western Union. What I want to do is work with Western Union, leverage the existing infrastructure that they already have, and do it more effectively, right? Make it cost less and just have it be a better experience for everybody. Right. And the thing is it makes sense for them because otherwise they're going to go the way of Blockbuster. right? It's, I mean, Blockbuster had infrastructure, right? Blockbuster had a lot of infrastructure. But the thing is that as technology advances, that starts to matter less and less and less. And if you don't adapt to digital, how do you say, to digital solutions, then you're going to be out of luck, right? And so, yeah.
All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
All right, great. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, yeah, because I mean, we're talking about distribution, right? And interestingly, and I think that's what makes your partnership with Block kind of more interesting, because right on my screen right now, we can see kind of the Block kind of group of companies, if we could put it that way. You have Square, you have Cash App, I mean, which are both big in the payment space, right? They are two of like the biggest payments or fintech companies or products in the world, right? So when you talk about you said, you need to work with people that has that network, and I think maybe when we look at it from like the American side of things, I don't know how big these applications are Square, Cash App across the rest of the world, say Europe, for example. But I mean, I think it starts from it starts from there, right? Block can basically, invest into marketing and saying, look, you can send money to Nigeria through Cash App, right? And right, I mean, how do you see that?
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. Right. I mean, Block through Cash App and through Square have massive distribution already in the US and then a little bit in the UK. Right. And so, look, America is not the center of the world, even though, every American might disagree with that. But, but, America is still sending an insane amount of money to the continent, right? And it is still the largest single country in terms of money going to the continent. Yeah, I mean, look, the US still sends the most money to the continent of any country by a long shot, right? And so, with that in mind, it is important to start somewhere, right? But like I said, Block is somebody that we've been working with for a long time, and that we're really excited for this TBD partnership. But I think more than that, I hope that other countries learn from this example, right? And I hope that other countries follow the example of what TBD and Block are doing here, and they try to better sending money to the continent and doing business on the continent in their own ways, just bring the world closer to Africa and Africa closer to the world, right? So look, I think, the Block partnership, this is something like I said, we're extremely excited about, but I'm more excited about the potential that this has for the continent with a massive company like Block legitimizing business on the continent, which, there's a lot of people out there outside of the continent that don't understand that Africa is a very good and legitimate place to do business. And so stuff like this just really helps.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you so much for your time. And this has been very interesting. And I wish you all the best in your project.
Incredible. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. See you soon, man.